civil indifference. And if you don't like his opinions, go look for like-minded civilians to whine in the comment section and slap a dislike on his videos. Welcome to Self-Critic Reviews, and today Self-Critic is gonna review Dark Season 2. Usually I start off my videos with a mandatory spoiler warning, and I will use spoilers in this video. But, just in case you're watching this video and you're unsure whether to give the show a chance or not, I will insert this warning later on, and I will share my general thoughts now and give you a chance to back off from watching this review if you haven't seen the show. So, what is Dark? Dark is a mystery series about time travel. And time travel is a very difficult and a complex concept to insert into a storyline of any show, and it's also quite a handful to be able to execute properly. No matter what, there will always be loopholes, because to my knowledge humans don't know how to leap through time yet, and we really have no idea what the real behavior would be like. And personally, I've always been fascinated by the concept. And I guess not so much by the concept itself, but by its application in fiction. And out of everything that I watched in my life thus far, Dark has been by far the best at handling time travel. And just for the reference, I've also seen Lost, Steins Gate, and Boku Dakegai Naimachi, also known as Erased, among other shows I might be forgetting. I remember the good old days when people were confused by time travel in Lost Season 4, and Hurley was explaining how it works in the simplest terms possible. It was funny because I distinctly remember that time traveling in Lost was basic and very easy to follow, and some fans were still confused. And if they thought that was confusing, Dark would be something entirely unfathomable to them. Dark takes time traveling to another level, and by doing that, the bar, meaning the quality and tension, was raised to unreachable heights. In fact, if one decides to rank all the shows that exist in the universe by the intended quality, not the actual output, then Dark would be one of the front runners, if not number one. The sheer vastness of the storyline, how characters, their actions and their pasts are intertwined, and the not necessarily linear sequencing of the events, all of this is a work of art, and a bold decision to take the chaos head on. As you understand, the bigger the ceiling, the bigger the intention, the higher the chance of loopholes, inconsistencies, and poor writing choices. This show is no exception. Like all mystery shows, Dark's plot relies on unanswered questions, on teasing with something you don't necessarily understand. And when these kinds of techniques are used, I always ask myself this. Hypothetically, if you're enjoying the build-up, if you're enjoying the mystery, if you're enjoying more questions getting thrown at you than answers, if the presentation has been great, will the unsatisfactory answer ruin the entire show for you? I'm asking this because it happens a lot in mysteries. You're like, oh wow, this is great, what does it mean? And eventually you either get an unsatisfactory answer or you get no answer at all. Should this ruin the show for you? There is no right or wrong answer in my opinion, but for me personally, it generally shouldn't ruin the entire show. Just that portion of the episode or the scene or lack thereof. There are exceptions though, like for example if you get hit with the "it was all a dream in his head" twist. But yeah, again, depends on the situation. So where am I going with this? Dark uses this trope as well, and sometimes things that I don't understand or that I feel aren't explained enough occur, and I love seeing them. But what will happen when I get all the answers? For now, I'm just enjoying the show and taking everything in as it comes at me. And I don't know what will come later. I think I'll stop my general thoughts now, and before issuing the spoiler warning, let me say that I highly recommend that anybody who enjoys complexity to watch this show. If you're thinking of continuing this review without checking this season out, think twice, because you'll be missing out on a unique TV show experience. There is of course a possibility that you won't understand anything I'm talking about anyway, but I wouldn't take that chance. So here is one final spoiler warning. Heed my advice, please. Okay, what did I think about Season 1? I thought it was excellent, but unfortunately I barely remember anything from it. I remember it wasn't perfect, and I had minor problems with it. But what those problems were will forever remain buried deep in my memory. And Season 2 picks up right where it left off, and my overall impression is positive, that it's just as good as Season 1. The newest installment focused a lot more on time traveling than Season 1. So there was little plot avoidance, which can often occur in shows like this. And watching the second season after a year-long pause was not easy. I couldn't remember the faces of lots of key characters, and seeing how there are 3 timelines with complex family trees, I missed out on a lot of the action in the beginning. But I do think that I got a firm grasp on the plot, and while my thoughts are still fresh, I'll share them so that I don't make the same mistake with Season 3. Before I begin, there is a very helpful character map with a family tree and the relationships that a Reddit user Ophelia_Silver_ made. I'm going to use it in this video sparingly, and the original post is linked in the video description below. Let the random thoughts begin. I did not understand why Jonas, his younger default version, is so knowledgeable in the future. In the second episode, in 2053, he performed very specific actions, like siphoning some liquid from a vehicle or not a vehicle, whatever it was. And the way it was presented seemed like he knew what he was doing. When speaking to Celia, he told her that Claudia had tapes describing how time machine works, so maybe there's that. But I don't remember anything from Season 1. Were the contents of those tapes ever revealed? And wasn't this one of Jonas's first times he time traveled? Basically, he seemed way more knowledgeable than he should be. On the other hand, I understand that this is how mystery shows are made, and sometimes people just explore random places and miraculously find what they are looking for. Speaking of Celia, I did not even catch her name in the series. Who is she? I wanted to find that out last season when it ended with her knocking Jonas out, but technically it didn't happen. The most likely theory is that she is Jonas's and Marta's child, but which Marta? How? When? Can't wait to find out. Celia served as an interpreter for the group's deaf leader, who we could obviously surmise was Elizabeth Doppler. And the twist that Elizabeth is her mom's mom is awesome. Dark is having its own Futurama moment. Season 2 introduced a new character after Ulrich's disappearance, Clausen, who is the head of Wyndon's task force, whose actor, by the way, was spectacular and stole the show. What I didn't understand is why everybody was so hesitant on telling him the truth. Again, I understand that mysteries rely on people withholding information, but for a change, was it so difficult to say, yeah, sure, let me tell you what's up? I can somewhat understand Charlotte being secretive, even if reluctantly, but Hannah, Katarina... The guy doesn't seem like he wants to do evil. He just wants to get to the bottom of the disappearances. So why not fill him in? Oh well. He is also not connected to any of the Wyndon characters, at least not yet. But I'm sure the show will have a surprising backstory for him that connects him to everybody in the small town. Otherwise, him having this much screen time doesn't make much sense. In the third episode, H.G. Tannhaus told us about the concept of bootstrap paradox, which is a theoretical paradox of time travel that occurs when something, a piece of information or an object, does not have a discernible point of origin anymore, because it was created through this piece of information getting sent back in time to be revealed in the past, which causes the object to be trapped in the infinite cause-effect loop. In other words, Tannhaus explained that this time machine was created through the notes that he wrote himself in the future, that got sent to him back in time by Claudia, so that he could use those notes to create the time machine. So Tannhaus wrote those notes in the future because he figured out how to create a time machine. And he figured out how to create a time machine based on those notes from the future. It's an awesome explanation, fully in tune with the spirit of the show. That episode mostly focused on Claudia and her adventures through time. And in a lot of these time traveling shows, there is an arbitrary rule where your future self cannot meet your present self because it'll cause a glitch in the matrix and the whole world will be screwed up forever. Not in Dark though. Claudia easily met up with her younger self, made her understand who she was, and the world didn't end. That was a nice change of pace. During the first season, I wondered what happened when Mikkel Nielsen and Michael Conwald saw each other, so there's my answer. Nothing happened really. In episode 4, Jonas and Hannah reunited, and they saw Charlotte's room with pictures and the investigation details. I thought the reactions of all the characters, not just in that particular scene, to Jonas or any other time travelers, to the revelation about the time machine, were all very well executed. But my favorite reunion was probably between Mikkel and old Ulrich. Admittedly, Katarina's first reaction to time travel was a bit annoying. Necessary but annoying, although she quickly came around when she did her own research later on. In the 5th episode, the kids, Magnus, Elizabeth, Marta, and Franziska, left Bartosz to rot in the cave. And the way it was presented, the series glossed over it as if it was a completely normal reaction from 4 children. The guy might have been an asshole last season, even if I don't remember exactly what he did. He literally did not do anything to deserve to die. I don't believe for a second that all 4 kids are heartless psychopaths and would feel nothing if they killed him. All because of what? Because he didn't tell him about the time machine? Come on. I also find it highly improbable that Hanna would not recognize that Mikkel looks exactly like her husband as a kid, especially since he had an old photo album where it's shown what he looked like as a child. In fact, in the entire series, people sometimes recognize others from the future instantly. And other times they don't see what's right in front of them. Hanna seemed a lot less crazy this season than last season, but her true colors were still shown when she traveled back in time to 1954 to speak to imprisoned Ulrich. And instead of trying to rescue him, all she could think about was what he thought about her. And even in spite of her hearing what she wanted to hear, she still left him in prison. Now that's the Hanna I know. Egon Tiedemann should have definitely asked Hanna what Ulrich's name was before she told them that she wasn't sure it was her husband. But for some reason, it didn't cross his mind. It was also hinted that Hanna and Egon Tiedemann got romantically involved, so I'm wondering if a child has been produced from their hookup. Based on the age, it does look like Clausen could be the child in question. But that would mean Hanna left him for adoption, because he didn't recognize her when they met. Episode 6 made me question whether what we are watching is the time loop that always happened. The series certainly hints that it is, and there is definitely some beauty in the constant attempts to stop Mikkel from killing himself, only to inadvertently do the opposite. It's predictable but elegant. The same is applied to Claudia killing her father. She wants to stop it from happening, only to make it happen herself. The only problem with this that I see is that old Claudia, the white-haired devil, could have told Claudia that she should be extra careful not to kill Egon, but for some reason she decided not to say anything. This could be explained by Claudia's motivations. Maybe she wanted it to happen this way, but did she? The series makes both Adam's and Claudia's motivations seem unclear. On purpose, I must say. Both of them say that they want the opposite things, but in practice, both of them end up doing the same things for the same goal. Back to the main question. If this is the same infinite loop, then does future default Jonas kissing Marta near the lake a couple of days before Michael hangs himself always happen? Does it always happen? The reason why I'm asking is because my season 1 memories are hazy. But I remember that after Michael killed himself, Jonas was depressed or in a coma for 3 months or whatever that was. And during that time, Marta hooked up with Bartosz, which was a dubious decision from a writing standpoint. But it happened. And my point is this. If this is the same loop, how does she end up with Bartosz? Does it mean that by the time Marta and Bartosz were together, Marta and Jonas would have already expressed their feelings toward each other? It's possible, but if so, it's very weird and convoluted. I would think Marta is a lot less fickle as a character, if that's the case. Jonas's first encounter with Adam in 1921 was epic. And Adam telling him, "Ich bin du," was great. Loved that reveal. Again, Adam's motivations are purposely unclear, but it's not the time for the audience to know what happened with Adam for him to want to end the world. Sure, in the final episode Adam shot Marta and explained that this death will be the catalyst for Jonas's transformation. I just hope that this isn't the only factor, because if it is, it's surely disappointing. Using bootstrap paradox to explain the existence of a time machine is quite harmless and is more poetic than anything else. And really, any explanation would have sufficed. But using that same paradox to explain a key moment of character development is going too far. However, Adam could be lying about being Jonas, and that would explain a lot. But then a different question would arise. Magnus, Franziska, and possibly Bartosz are all in 1921 together with Adam. I imagine they would trust Jonas, but would they trust a stranger the same way? This brings me to another question. Should Jonas really trust Claudia over Adam? At some point, in a matter of seconds, Claudia convinced Jonas Adam is evil and he should listen to her. Unless I'm missing something, that was lazy from the writers. But in principle, I agree that Adam shouldn't really be trusted, and that Jonas would find Adam's motivation suspicious at some point. He would theoretically need guidance, and Claudia was the one person who provided it. In episode 7, Alexander Tiedemann was arrested by Clausen, and the reason for his apprehension was hilarious.
1,71 schätze ich mal, maximal. In dem Dokument steht aber 1,75. Also, wo sind sie? Wo ist was? Die 4 Zentimeter. Ich werde sie festnehmen.
I mean, wow, this is conclusive evidence? Pretty funny, I must say. I don't know what to make of Clausen's conversation with Alexander about Clausen's lost brother, with Alexander getting sad and scared all of a sudden, but I expect that next season we'll find out more. It was a fantastic scene though, because of amazing acting by Clausen's actor. Noah getting killed at the end of the season was a letdown. He was one of the most mysterious characters on the entire show. It appeared that he never aged throughout all the timelines, and I was wondering what it was all about. He really instilled fear and threat as a villain. However, what ended up happening is that he was just Adam's pawn, executing his orders. All the kills, the conversations between characters, and anything else you might think of. It was hinted that Noah was looking for Charlotte for a long time, and I wondered why it was so difficult for him, when it should not have been. It was a good scene, of course, when he told her he was her father and omitted that her own daughter is her mother. It was probably the only time Noah ever showed emotions. So yeah, overall the verdict is that unfortunately the show dropped the ball with this character. Let's hope they will at least give justice to Adam then, and won't repeat the same mistakes. Jonas and Marta's romance has been handled pretty well in this series thus far. One small mistake, and it could have gone way downhill. So props to the writers for not ruining it yet. Marta with black hair. What is that all about? Exploring alternative timelines is awesome. Thus far we've only seen one timeline, maybe with small variations. But new timelines with the same characters, possibly with different romantic involvement, that would make the family tree infinitely more complex. People would flip out, I'm sure. And not even family tree pictures would help. Also, what did Marta's letter that young Noah gave to older Jonas say? I guess we'll find out in 2020. And what does Marta know? Was it even a letter from her and not a forgery? And my guess that it probably said that she's dead now and that Adam killed her. And the final question. Where did Jonas, Magnus, Franziska and Bartosz travel to? The most logical answer is that they traveled way back in time. Maybe even to 1888 or 1855. 1855 would probably be too old for Franziska, because she doesn't look over 60 in 1921. Magnus does, however, look over 50, so that's what's ticking me off. Either way, this is the only logical guess that I could come up with. That would also mean Adam isn't lying about being Jonas if they all traveled way back in time, because they are still theoretically together in 1921. Also, yeah, that black and white picture, with Adam, Noah and others, this photo, I wonder who everybody on it is. There's Adam, Noah, Magnus, Franziska, and who's everybody else? As a side note, I want to say that whoever picked the actors for the same characters in different timelines did an amazing job, especially Ulrich's actors. You could easily imagine that all three of those people are the same person at a different age. So yeah, impressive. Whew. It was an awesome season. As you can see, I had lots of questions, both about quality and the plot itself, but I think the show's strengths outweigh the weaknesses 1,000-fold and did not ruin the experience. So I hope I'll remember this information by next season. Thanks for watching this video.